Hi everyone, we're going to evaluate the given integral using from 0 to a, where a is positive. And we're using our inverse trig functions. Look here, we have our a squared plus x squared. There it is right there. So we're going to use our substitution and let x equal tan, or equal a tan of theta, and we know that a is positive, so a is positive, and therefore our derivative of x is going to equal a secant squared of theta d theta. Since we're doing this substitution, we want to change our bounds here, so let's look at that. When x is 0, our theta is going to be 0, because 0 equals a tan of 0. Tan of 0 is 0. So that's going to stay 0. And let's try our a. So if we want x to equal a, then we're going to have, this is going to be a tan. We want our theta to be pi divided by 4. So tan of pi divided by 4 is 1. So 1 times a gives you a. So this is going to change to pi divided by 4. And from there we can use substitution. So we're going to get, for substitution, our dx is here. So that's a secant squared theta d theta. And then the denominator is going to be a squared plus, and you square this for x. We square the x. So it's going to be a squared tan squared of theta to the 3/2. All right. Now let's simplify this. So we still have, this should be, I always write 2 for 4. So it should be pi divided by 4 to 0. And we have a secant squared theta d theta divided by, and I'm going to write the denominator, I'm going to factor out a squared, and that gives you 1 minus tan, this should all have been to the 1/3, but 3/2, tan squared theta. Just pulling out the a squared to the, and this is all to the 3/2 power. All right, now simplifying further, this is secant squared from your Pythagorean identities. So finally you're going to get 0 to pi divided by 4, a secant squared theta d theta, and this is going to be divided by a cubed secant cubed of theta. All right. So now, simplifying this further, I'm going to, this is a. So when you look at these two, that's going to be 1 over a squared. So let's simplify that. That's going to be 1 divided by a squared from pi divided by 4 to 0, and then we had secant squared theta divided by secant cubed theta d theta. Well, this is just going to be 1 divided by secant squared theta, which just equals cosine of theta. So I can rewrite this as 1 divided by a squared from pi divided by 4 to 0. And this is going to be cosine of theta d theta. All right, now let's integrate. So we're going to have 1 divided by a squared. Derivative of, or the antiderivative of cosine is sine. So that's going to be sine theta from 0 to pi divided by 4. So we get 1 divided by a squared. And sine of pi over 4 is square root of 2 divided by 2. And sine of 0 is just 0. So your final answer is just going to be square root of 2 divided by 2a squared. And that's it. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye-bye. You could also basically write this as 1 divided by square root of 2a squared if you wanted to. That's it. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.